WCLN 1170 Radio and Star Vision Cable Channel 16 are pleased to present We Should Know, hosted by J.W. Simmons, an upbeat, informative look at people, places, and issues facing our community. This education-based analysis of issues will remain positive and informative as we consider closely what we should know.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We Should Know is on the air. We're coming to you on WCLN 1170 AM, Star Vision TV, cable, television, and Star TV. We also reprinted in the Sampson Weekly newspaper, uploaded to YouTube. Just type in We Should Know EDU and you'll find us on there. Most of our shows are usually uploaded about 2 or 3 days after they air on the radio and TV. We're fortunate to have some folks come back with us to talk about an event over in Duplin County, right next door, that actually affects a lot of folks throughout North Carolina. A lot of people drive in from this event from different places. 2 people that you know very well have been here before, Dave and Jonathan Fussell. Guys, thanks for being back. Thanks for coming and sitting down and talking to us about something called the Grape Stomp. I've labeled it that. I think really it's called Grape Stomp and Concert, but I just thought the Grape Stomp sounded good. It happens.
It's a good time.
Yeah, there you go. It sounds like a good time. So let's talk about that just for a minute. Now, it's coming up September 7th. And when you think about Grape Stomp, you know, we'll talk a little bit about history of grapes a little later, but I want to kind of get into that to start with. It's right here upon us, so folks need to think, you know, I'm hearing this today. You may be looking at it replay on Thursday, but this is coming up like right now, so what do they need to do? Do they have to register before they get there? Can they pay at the door? And then let's get into the details of what it is.
Well, first, J.W., thank you for allowing us to be here. It's great to be here again. You have to buy tickets in advance. This event is something that our dad and uncle started 37 years ago. And it's been going on, and we've been very blessed and lucky enough that the popularity of the event has got it where we only can hold a certain amount of folks. So we sell tickets in advance, and tickets are $15. And they can buy it online at duplinwinery.com or call our 800 number, 800-774-9634. Okay. And but we do encourage them to buy tickets in advance because we only allow a limited number of folks to come.
Okay. We had to do the ticket deal because back in around 78 or so, you know, we were about a 3 or 4 person operation. We had about 5,000 people show up. So
wow.
What in the world are we going to do with all these folks? And of course we showed them the best time we possibly could, but it was quite a stretch, and so we put tickets now on sale.
Well, that about quadrupled the number of people in Rose Hill, didn't it?
Oh yeah, population 800 plus 5,000. That's right.
That's amazing. You know, when you think about these kinds of events, so it kind of brands itself not only with Duplin wines, but with the entire region of the state itself. And as we talk about that, you know, we look back at the deep, rich history of that, and I want to read a little quote here, and this is from your daddy, Senior, David Senior. He said, "We pulled up to this sophisticated wine distributor in Raleigh, and it was the first time they had ever seen anyone bring them wine loaded in a hog trailer."
That's right. I was on that trip with them.
Now from there,
it was embarrassing for me.
Yeah. Now from there, where we are now, that's a long journey, isn't it?
Oh yeah. You know, that's it's amazing to see things that change. But of course, you know, we've been so fortunate that our dad worked so hard, and the people that he had working with him side by side worked hard, and you know, eventually we got past that hog trailer. I remember one time we bought a dump truck to haul our used skins and seeds after we pressed the delicious juice off of it. And we went and took a trip to Asheville. And I was like, okay, cool. So we're riding in this dump trailer, you know, and we get in the back of it, and I look, and I said, what are the sleeping bags doing here? He said, well, after we drop the wine off at this fancy distributor, we're going to spend a night at the state park in the back of this dump truck. So I was like, there are bears out here, Pop.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's the way things rolled, and we're very fortunate now we get to stay in the Red Roof Inn sometimes. You know,
Well, Jonathan, you guys actually saw this thing go from that kind of mentality where you were literally talking about a hog trailer to a dump truck or what have you. But now and we're probably talking then, a few hundred gallons of wine, and now we're talking over 1 million gallon capacity of wine annually.
No.
That's huge. And when you look at the time, it seems long, but it's a short period of time when you look at how this business has grown. What do you attribute that to?
Well, I'll tell you this. It's amazing. I was reading the Bible this morning, and I read where Jesus talking about somebody will plant the seed for somebody else to harvest it, and that's what our father and uncle did that many years ago, and we've been very lucky enough to take their hard work and to grow upon it. But this year, our tank capacity is right around 1.6 million gallons of wine, and we've just been very, very fortunate that we have a lot of great folks that work with us that really pretty much run the winery for us, and we have a lot more folks out there that buy our wine, and we're so appreciative of their support.
And Dave, I guess when you look at wine and think about it in the state of North Carolina, we're looking at probably over 100 wineries in the state, and Duplin being one of those. The uniqueness of this muscadine grape that's kind of been the mainstay for you guys. What's so unique about that muscadine grape that kind of separates it from all of these other kinds of wines you see?
Well, some people may even say a muscadine grape should be categorized as a berry.
Yeah.
And muscadine grapes have so much sweetness and natural fruit, and when you sip on a little glass of muscadine wine, you really should be able to taste that grape. And forever, my grandfather and dad and uncle said, let's make sure that you can taste the grapes in the wine. And that, with the health benefits that came along in '96, really just turned things around from us. We went from bankruptcy and my dad losing his house to now we've got 92 great associates and 49 families that are growing grapes with us, and we're having a good time. It's hard work though, a lot of hard work, but we try to do our very best to make the best muscadine wine in the whole world.
Before we aired a while ago, you and I were talking over here while Jonathan was talking at another place in the studio here, and we were talking about it in society today. We've got a lot of well, I won't say a lot of folks. We've got some folks that will give you an excuse for not making something happen. You just mentioned your dad losing the house, but the reality is you guys stayed the course. You worked hard, determined. I suspect you didn't hear a whole lot of excuses of why we can't do it. It was more about why you can do it.
Very, very few.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to get your butt to work.
There you go.
Give you a whooping.
There you go. There you go.
Pick those grapes, prune those grapevines. But, my granddad and dad, I grew up in a different generation, and just hard work and determination, and there were down times where there was depression and stress and different things like that. But it sort of, I kind of think Dad's about as tough as a muscadine grape skin. And the folks that were working with us back then, and even the people who work with us now, there's very few excuses. I think that we also can compete very well one-on-one with a lot of folks. And when you go through all these different levels of business, where you have a distributor who has a general manager, who has a salesman, a lot of communication there. There's a gap, and you got to work through it, kind of massage it, and make sure that everybody's doing their job. And for the most part, we've been very fortunate to hook up with people who have had that mentality.
Jonathan, when you look at that and you think about the whole issue of employability and jobs and so forth, jobs extend far beyond just the winery itself for you guys, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, we've been very fortunate enough with these 49 families. Of course, they have a lot of folks that work with them that grow great grapes for us, and they work really hard, and they care about the process, and they brag about how good their grapes look that year, and they'll come through the winery, they're looking good this year and all that. But we also affect a lot of the folks out there that are selling our wine, and we try to get them to sell a lot more of it too. And so there's hundreds of folks that are or maybe the wine industry as a whole, thousands in the state of North Carolina that are affected by the North Carolina wine industry. At one time, the governor has said that North Carolina wine industry is now over $1.3 billion and that it generates in revenue for our state. So we're very proud to be a part of that.
That's a huge chunk. And Dave, the state fruit or what have you is now.
Oh yeah.
What about
Scuppernong grape?
There you go. What about that? You know, and a lot of folks don't realize that, but I mean that's a huge distinction. When the state of North Carolina, out of all of these wonderful fruits we've got, I mean, just think about it, and it's the Scuppernong grape.
And we're going to try to honor that this September 7th with a great Grape Stomp.
There you go.
That's going to be our new name to it, the Great Grape Stomp.
The Great Grape Stomp.
Do we have any print?
Right, that's that.
It would almost be like if you had a grape stomp, you would have somebody with huge feet to stomp them. I don't know. But tell us, since we kind of pivoted back around to that, and we're going to go to a break in just a second here. I don't want to get you into a long answer and then have to cut you off, but the Grape Stomp itself, and started 37 years ago. How did that, because obviously you don't stomp grapes now. I mean, that's a whole other generation of things. But historically, that was something people did, was it not?
Our very first wines were made out of stomped grapes. We didn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
You know, but we stomped grapes there. And you know, we were looking way back in the early 70s for, you know, a fun time.
Yeah.
To get people to come in, introduce our wines to them. And we had a grape throwing contest, the biggest feet contest, bands that come all over the place and come and play with us. And of course, my grandfather loved when the pretty girl got in there and shook it a little bit while she was stomping.
Grandpa was how old now?
Oh, he was back then. You know, I don't know. He died at 97, but he always say maybe she'll slip down and make the wine a little sweeter. You know.
When we look at those things and think about what's going on and the dynamic, there's a lot to grapes rather than just something on a vine. So we're going to kind of talk to that and speak to those issues, but we're going to have to take a break and kind of get back to that in just a moment. But give us time to take a quick break. Ladies and gentlemen, stay with us. We're talking with Dave and Jonathan Fussells. We're talking about grapes and the great Grape Stomp. Stay with us. We'll be back in one moment. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. You're watching We Should Know on the TV. You're hearing us on the radio. You'll read about us in the newspaper, in the Sampson Weekly. We're uploaded to YouTube, We Should Know, EDU. A number of our shows are already online. I want to give a shout out to a number of folks at the radio station that speak to about us on their show. Grandpa, the L-Man, Nolan Z in the morning. Boogie Shoes guy on Saturday afternoon there, Robert Stroud, a huge audience listening population. The Country Store with Don Smith. Believe it or not, if you haven't listened to The Country Store, you should do that. Don's got over 50 years in radio, and you will hear anything for sale on The Country Store and all kinds of messages. Folks call in every day on Don's show. We want to thank Nicole for her introduction each and every week and for the show she does with the wonderful old-time music, and I say old-time music, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and in that genre. Tommy the Fly on in the afternoon. We thank him for talking about us. And, of course, Wayne Weeks with the Southern Gospel Hour. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking with two folks, good friends of mine, Dave and Jonathan Fussell from Duplin Winery. We've talked about the Grape Stomp that's coming up. And give us the telephone number and website, because this is a pre-register kind of thing that folks need to pre-register. Give us that information again, John.
It's DuplinWinery.com or 800-774-9634. And JW, I promise you and all the folks out there, it's going to be a great time.
Well, every year, I think 37 years, I believe you said a while ago, he has continued to improve each year. And I'm understanding there's a lot of folks drive in from various places, as we would say in the country, from far off to come in, and they rent hotel rooms, they stay overnight, they bring huge numbers of friends from various places. What is some of the furthest distance that folks have come for this?
The furthest distance so far that I know of is in Alaska.
Wow.
And that they have come, but they actually were coming also for something else.
Yeah, they had to make it. But we could use that.
That's right. But the actually furthest away just for the Grape Stomp has been Michigan.
Wow.
And they came in, 6 folks came in last year from Michigan. and they came in and they actually guy was very interested in muscadine grapes and wanted to come down during the height of the season, and also was looking for something fun to do, and he stopped in and stayed actually a weekend with us at the winery and got to learn how everything was, and did a tour of the winery several times during that day, just finding out information. Then he went on down to Myrtle Beach and spent some days down there. And since then, they became part of our club family that we have. And so he'll contact us and send us a little video the other day saying, "Oh, I know Grape Stomp's coming up." We had such a good time. So.
Well, people look forward to it and they plan their schedules around it. And I think the important thing for folks listening to this show now, they need to call that number quickly, and they need to go online quickly and register, because it's going to be right here, on top of them. But because when this show airs, it's going to be looking at just a few days, it's going to be happening. So we want to make sure they know that. And if they miss this year, go ahead and log it in for next year.
That's right. And a lot of people, they think, well, what do you do out of grape stomp? You just stomp on grapes.
Yeah.
I mean, and that is the main. That's the main thing. You actually do stomp grapes, and people would, just seeing their expression for the first time of when they get in barefooted into a bin and the grapes go in between their toes and all that, and they kind of freak out over that.
They really freak out when you sample the juice out
that's
of
right.
Kind of make sure to pull your socks off. Right?
But and that's what's so fun about it. But also the day is a whole festivity. I mean, we bring in Dennis Sutton, which you got to meet, and we give private tours of our vineyard, and we teach you how to grow grapes and how the proper way, because we get a lot of Northerners come in. They don't know how to eat a muscadine grape.
That's right.
And so we teach them how to do that, and give them a chance to be able to pick grapes. And we tell them, look, you want to pick a little extra, you can throw your grapes in there, maybe get a little bit more juice in your stomping. Also during that day we do special wine tastings, and these wine tastings we do charge for with $5, but you get to keep your wine glass, and we get cheese ball and all that with it, and it's just a great time. We educate you on the wine, but we try to make both that educational tour of the vineyard and also on the wine tasting fun and exciting. And during that evening, we have a band playing. Carl Newton and the Fifth Avenue Band will be playing, and we'll be stomping grapes, and we'll have food outside for folks to eat and enjoy and drink wine, and we'll have wine sweetzers out there, which is a frozen slushy at the winery, and also we will open up our restaurant that day. So it's going to be a great day of fun.
Jonathan, Dave just mentioned a fellow by the name of Dennis. Now, Dennis teaches viniculture at the college there, and for people that might not know what that terminology means, it's basically how to make wine and how to grow grapes.
Oh, yeah.
So, and Dennis actually works part-time for you guys in helping express and get the word out. I had a good fortune a while back to have a conversation with him. Was very impressed, not only with him as a gentleman, but with his knowledge and depth of knowledge. He was not somebody that would just serve you a glass of wine, but he could tell you how that wine was made, developed. Talk to us about
one of the things, now Dennis doesn't know it all.
Okay. Even though he tells you he might.
Yeah, well, we got to make sure, because he's out there training competition.
Right.
And so we don't want him to know every little secret thing,
Well, speaking of competition, talk to us a little about the uniqueness of this whole idea of the Scuppernong grape. What is so unique about it? You talked a little bit about it a while ago. Obviously, we know it was a state fruit, but it's a real sweet grape. It has a huge history, dates back to the 1500s. What is so unique about that particular grape that sets us apart from all these other grapes we hear about?
Well, number one, the oldest living grapevine in the world that we know of is the mother vine, Scuppernong grapevine, located on Roanoke Island in Manio. And throughout the years, cuttings have produced vineyards that are Scuppernong grapes.
Right.
Scuppernong is an Indian name meaning sweet tree. And so when the settlers came over and they, of course, asked, what is this grape? They said, it's called Scuppernong, sweet tree. And they said, this is some of the best sweet wines in the whole world. So we're mighty lucky that we live here in eastern North Carolina where Scuppernongs flourish. And they do very, very well. And once we pick the grapes at the peak of ripeness and extract all the good, delicious, sweet juice off of it, if we do our jobs as winemakers, we can compete with anybody in the whole world with a sweet wine. And very fortunate that we happen to, to get a Lord planted these grapes here.
Well, and you mentioned sweet wine. I get both of your comments on this, and we hear this a lot, and I know you guys do. And of course, the obvious thing is apparently somebody likes sweet wines, because you guys sell over 1 million gallons a year, so that tells me somebody's drinking sweet wines. But now you do have a couple of wines that would be probably considered semi-sweet, and I want to talk about that for a minute. Those two particular wines, for those folks that think, well, everything is just sweet, your Carlos and Burgundy, I think, is two of those wines. What kind of caused you to say, well, we want to do a couple of dry or semi-dry, depending on what the code would be?
Because that's what he likes.
The only reason we make Carlos is because it's my favorite.
Okay.
We don't sell a lot of it.
Okay.
But it is good.
Yeah. Okay. Because you do have folks that will say to you, I understand, but and I like to support Duplin wines, but I like dry wine. So your response to them would be?
Sample our Carlos. Carlos is probably one of the best dry wine grapes as far as a muscadine. Mm-hmm. And you have, you still have a lot of that forward fruit, but you have a nice crisp finish at the end, so it ends up really dry. Mm-hmm. And if you ran a sugar test on it, our Carlos is just as dry as most of the dry Chardonnays or Cabs or Merlots or any of those, but it just has so much more fruit there. So it's a little more refreshing to me than some of those drier wines that kind of suck your mouth, your jaws in. Absolutely. But I enjoy Carlos, and our Burgundy's made out of a noble grape. Dry wines are made from some of the same grapes that can make sweet wines. You just pick the grape a little earlier. And the earlier the grape, less sweet the juice.
And it has a lot to do with acidity, tanning, and those kinds of things that you hear words that oftentimes folks don't really understand what it means, but it has to do with the taste and the palate itself.
Yeah, we don't talk about those things so much. Yeah. I mean, just sample.
In fact, I was reading a couple of articles and I basically was asking the question to some quote wine people, and one of them, a fellow by the name of Tom, had the best answer. He said, out of all of it, if you say Merlot, Pinot, whatever it may be, he said, well, you basically are talking about different kinds of grapes. He said the best answer is whatever you like.
That's it.
And I thought, that kind of simplifies it for most folks. But then you still have those folks that will walk up, I'm sure, and probably your guys get it a lot that's out on the road demonstrating or sampling, giving out samples of your wine. They'll walk up and ask, do you have a Merlot or do you have a Pinot or whatever, how you pronounce it. I don't know how to pronounce it, but...
Once we have folks that come up and they got the little pinky out with their wine glass, especially if it's a male, we go, okay, let's break out some serious words here. Words we don't even know the meaning of. But it is, wine is sort of complicated to make, but we've been doing it for 8 years now, and so it's kind of gotten a little more simple. And we just try to simplify things to make sure you sample things that taste good. So it's all about taste.
Well, and with that said, Jonathan, you guys have got like a 40-foot tasting bar or something down there that folks can stop in anytime. I mean, there's no charge for them to come in and sample.
No, we give free wine tastings 6 days a week from 9 o'clock to 6 o'clock. And we'd love for any of your listeners and viewers to come see us and actually tour the winery and do a wine tasting for free. We actually sample 14 different wines, and we do the educational part of it, where teach you the 5 S's of tasting wine. Yeah. So one of those folks want to be out like they're professional wine tasters, out and their friends and everything, don't know what to do. But we at the winery, we practice the PDR method. Mm-hmm. That's called pour, drink, repeat. And so we just have a good time. And
you get visitors oftentimes from different places just pass through, because now you're just off of I-40 there, and what exit number is that? Is that 380?
Exit 380, and JW, we get over 90-something thousand folks to come visit us a year.
We're going to take another break. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a moment with Dave and Jonathan Fussell. Stay with us. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We Should Know is on the air. When We Should Know today is looking in things we need to know about some of our partners right here in this part of the state, real close by. Some friends in Duplin County called Duplin Winery, making a huge business impression over there with the winery, with grape growers right here in Sampson County that have vineyards and Sampson County grapes and grapes from the eastern part of North Carolina going to the winery. Having said that, guys, thank you for being here, Dave and Jonathan. Talking about grapes, one of the things that's interesting is that many gallons of wine requires a whole lot of grapevines, does it not? And we don't have the capacity in this area to supply all of the necessary grapes that is demanding of you to produce. So what do you do in that situation?
Well, we have 49 families growing grapes here for us in North Carolina. And when we started getting some of these winds off the hurricanes to come in, we said, hey, we need to diversify a little bit and go into some places that maybe would not be affected by hurricanes. So we have grapes that grow in Mississippi, we have grapes that grow in South Florida, and we have grapes that grow in the Panhandle of Florida. Now, because we have a little rule at the winery that all the grapes have to be pressed within 24 hours after they're harvested, we can't press those grapes here because the trip is just too far. So we have a pressing station in the Funiat Springs, Florida, where we take all these grapes, press the juice, chill the juice down, and then we truck it to here in Tanger. So all the fermentation, of course, is done in our plant in Rose Hill, or in our winery in Rose Hill.
So it's a huge process. I mean,
well, I think altogether we have about 1,200 acres total, there's a lot of coordination going on when you're trying to pick and harvest the grapes, because not all the grapes are ripe at the same time, so you're out in the vineyards doing tests. Of course, when there's a hurricane out in the ocean, all the growers say, hey, my grapes are ready, and so we want to try to get them if they are ready. We're limited to how many grapes we can press per day. We max out around 350 tons each and every day, which is a 24-hour operation for us during that growing season. And one of the things we've tried to do also is shorten our growing season, where we're picking our grapes at the top of the bell curve when they're the very best. And so we've gone from pressing grapes for 2 months down to 3 weeks, and we're really, really busting loose, pressing these grapes, and we've got some big presses. My marriage has been saved because I bought a press, and we named it Big D after my grandfather, and we can press 68 tons at one time in this big bladder press.
Now, the obvious continuation to that conversation is all of that's pressed, and you mentioned a while ago how tough some of these grape hulls are and the various things that are there after the juice is pressed out. What happens to that? And I know you've got a market for some of that.
There is a huge company, Shackley, which is a multi-level business, very similar to Amway. It is the world's largest nutraceutical company, and they're buying every bit of our skins and seeds. We call it pomace. We're freezing it. They buy it, and they're making sort of a elixir, which happens to be the #1 nutraceutical sales item in all of China.
Wow.
And of course they're paying like $100, I think, per bottle of this North Carolina muscadine grape pomace elixir, and they're having wonderful successes, lowering cholesterol levels and different things like that.
Well, isn't it wonderful that we can sit here and talk about something we're actually now selling back to China instead of buying something from China? I mean, folks listening have got to be thinking, did I just hear that right? We're actually selling something to China. So that's a huge derivative. And Jonathan, as we think about that, and you look on the retail end, you guys also have a lot of products that are not just wine that you consume, but everything from creams to you name it that's related to wine. Talk to us about that a bit.
We did. Our uncle actually started a company called NutriGrape, and NutriGrape actually buys our skins and seeds also, and they do a drying out process of those, and from that drying out, a liquid comes out, and they use that liquid to make antioxidant facial creams and body lotions. They take the seed and the skin itself, and they grind it up into a powder, and that's what I take every single day. And it's basically used there, and we have testimonies all the time, folks coming in whose cholesterol have lowered because of this. And because you got a lot of people out here that don't like to drink alcohol or have anything alcohol, and so, but they need, you know, their doctors told them they got to drink red wines because it's good for your heart. So this is an alternative for them. I do both because I want to make sure I'm okay. You know, exactly. That's right. But
swallow the pill, but
drink
wine, with some wine.
That's right. I always joke. I pick with people. I say, look, you really want to save some money. What you should do, we make a wine called Scuppernong Blush that has the highest amount of antioxidants of any wines. I said, at night after you floss and brush your teeth, stop up your sink, pour that bottle in there, immerse your face into it, and as you're drinking the wine, you can swish it in your mouth. No need to buy Listerine because the alcohol is going to kill your germs. As you're drinking it, you get the antioxidants for the inside of your body, and you got anti-wrinkle cream on the face. The only thing, JW, that I've noticed after doing this for about 10 years, doesn't grow any hair.
That's one of those things we have got to live with, unlike Dave.
I know, he don't have any problem.
And it's interesting when you look at it because oftentimes you think about a winery, you just think about wines. You don't think about the other things. But let's talk about a little bit as well. There's also other food items that's made from. Let's mention some of those because, quite frankly, a lot of folks maybe that either hadn't visited the winery, and I can't imagine why not. You know, right here close by, but they might not know some of these things are on the shelf.
Well, you know when Dave said I pointed we make some drier wines to Carlos and Burgundy, and they are great wines, but they're our least selling wines. We had to justify the fact that we were having to make it just for him. So we tried to figure out how can we use this to sell. But we make some great wine sweeteners, and a lot of people say, "What in the heck is a sweetener?" And that's a term that we came up with. It's basically we make this mix that you put in with the wine, and you put it with ice in a blender, and it's a great wine slushy, and we sell the living daylights out of it, and especially folks love it, especially women, and it is. I'm glad they do because I like seeing them drinking it. But it's a great product. We started because of that have started a new division in our company called Duplin Gourmet, where we make jellies and jams and salad dressings and crackers, and I mean the barbecue sauces. We do it all out of the muscadine grape. But the most famous thing that we do, now it's not the best seller, but the most famous thing we do here at our winery is we make a grape pole pie. And people come in from all over to get that grape pole pie.
What in the world's this?
Yeah, I know. And I always love to see a person for the first time try. Remember me talking about the grapes going in between the toes? Person eating a grape pole pie for the first time, never had one. You know, I take it for granted because we grew up on it. But they eat it and they're kind of weird the first taste, but then you just see them start eating it again. So it's a great thing.
Well, it's some of these items like grape pole pie. I know I remember as being very young, folks, cooking grape pole pies and those kinds of things. Is that something unique to southeastern North Carolina, or do you find that some of these things are part of the culture in other parts of the country?
We get folks that come in from all over the place, have never heard of it.
South Georgia, where muscadines do grow.
Yeah, I mean, so it's this amazing to me because we take it for granted, just growing up here, and that other folks would have it, but it is something that is very unique to the area. But we've for us to stay in business, and one of the things that we want to do is create jobs and be able to do things and sustain what we have, and that's from creating this other department of Duplin Gourmet.
One of the things it's interesting, I know one of the branded items you have as far as marketing is sweet, cool, and easy, and you're also now alluding to what you just said, Jonathan. It's called sweet, cool, and freezy. So the freezy item is something that's interesting when you look at that part of it.
Did you come on
that? Well, we're going to give him credit. We're going to give him credit. Sweet, cool, and freezy. When you think about that freezy kind of part of the drink, what do you think is causes folks to like that? And I mean, you guys have been to Live After 5 here, and in fact, coming up the third Thursday in September, we have another Live After 5. You'll be there, and we've been getting a lot of rave reviews by having you guys there. But I'm like you, I was kind of just amazed at how many people love that freezy item that's on the list.
You want to talk about this?
You go ahead, man.
Well, first of all, thank you for helping us be able to be a part of that Live After 5.
Yeah,
But, you know, without you, we wouldn't be there.
You would
But anyway, it was a concept that we came across. We don't invent the wheel, we sort of steal the wheel.
There you go.
But it was a concept that came about years ago. And we saw a company in Atlanta that was just sort of doing it as a way to be able to sell their wine. And we tried it, and we said, we can do this better. Mm-hmm. So we started doing a lot of research and experimenting a lot. And we came up with this taste. And the reason being is our wines, of course, are sweeter style wines. But with the sweeter type mix, it basically you add the ice, and it gives that taste and the fizziness and the coldness and the acidity and the sweetness level all together. Just creates a unique taste for somebody. So it's, a lot, and people just like to hear that blender sound going on, or they're seeing that frozen drink, and it just gives. And what really amazed me, JW, is the fact that I thought that it was just going to be a summertime thing, but we sell them year round. I mean, the sales do not. But we don't sell more in the summer than we do the winter. It's the same all year round. It's just amazing to me.
And it's an item, I think, that has some uniquenesses, because normally you don't see that, especially in a wine kind of beverage. But you've made a huge market out of it, and it continues. It seems to grow. When we come back from break, Dave, I want to kind of explore a little bit the front line things that you get involved in, because I know you're out there on the front lines marketing, and you're selling to a lot of huge corporations, to Walmart and other places. So we're going to touch on that when we come back. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to us. We're talking about wines. We're talking with Dave and Jonathan Fussells, Duplin Winery, the premier winery here in North Carolina, right next door. Stay with us. We'll be back in a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We're talking about a very unusual kind of thing. We have these guys on as often as we can get them. They're busy people. It's a business right here in eastern North Carolina that involves a huge number of people in the vineyards, at the winery, multi-state process. Leading that corporation is Dave and Jonathan Fussell, Duplin Wineries. Dave, we were talking about before we went to break various things that's going on. We talked with Jonathan about things that's happening at the winery. You spend a lot of time on the road, Dave, and you're knocking on doors. And I know it's nothing compared to selling toothbrushes, but basically you're marketing your product. Now, as
got a lot of nicks also.
There you go. So there's some good side to that as well. Yeah. So as you look at that, when you walk up in your mind and you're meeting with whomever, whether it's Walmart execs or Food Line execs or what have you, what's your thrust? What do you say when you go through the door? How do you handle that? Just kind of give us an idea. Is it harder now? Is it easy to get in places? What's the challenge?
Well, before you show up, you're nervous.
Yeah.
I mean, nervous. The old country boy nervous up in these city places, But it's so nice and refreshing when you can walk into a place and just be yourself. And so, I don't try to do anything fancy or anything like that. Just try to be yourself. Yeah. Jason Fremstad, the corporate buyer for Walmart, in charge of all the wines throughout the world, meeting with him a couple of months ago. He said, Dave, you know what's so cool about Duplin? I said, the way we talk. He said, no. He said, Duplin wine is the 20th best-selling wine in all of Walmart. And I was like, oh, my God.
Now, that's huge, Dave.
Oh, yeah, that was. And so I used that. And I said, hey, look, you only have us in 4 states. Just think if you'll put us in all 50.
Right.
He said, what will you do? I said, I'm still going to drive if I can down here. I do not like flying. Right. But, it's great we have a lot of support from folks like Food Line, Harris Teeter, Winn-Dixie, Kroger, Bi-Lo, Ingles, Lowe's Foods, the Piggly Wigglies. I mean, Sam's Club. I'll leave somebody off, and I hate that I even started down that road. We came in with something different, something unique. You don't think that muscadine grapes is very rare, but actually in this world, it's a rare little thing because, only 0.0001% of the wine made in the world was made out of muscadine grapes. And so we take that and our story and the history, and we talk about my granddad, and course, they like talking about me being fired 7 times, and I say I've been hired 8. And,
and that's the important part.
That is. But it is a different world that, a country boy going up, you break down some barriers and you just build relationships, and we try to countrify them up a little bit,
There you go. When you think about the process of going out and knocking on those doors, can you share with us what door you would like to open now that you hadn't opened?
Oh man, there's a bunch of doors out there. There's a bunch of doors. Well, as we grow into other states, and other states have stores that we do not have here in the South. Kroger's a big chain, actually the largest chain in the United States, and we haven't broken down those doors, and they have a big market share in Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, that part of the country. I'd love to have our wine one day in Manhattan. We might have to put it in a mason jar to get it up there, but some of these areas, and these are things we're working into. We're very lucky. Last week we just got news that we're going to be in all the Walmart stores in Alabama. Wow. Because of that, Publix now is putting us in Alabama stores, and hopefully we'll get in some of these Winn-Dixie stores also. But it takes not just that, but once the wine gets there, we've got to have numbers, we've got to have sales, we've got to build relationships, we've got to find people who enjoy some of the best sweet wines in the world, and we've got to let them know, hey, it comes from Rose Hill, North Carolina. We make it, and we're proud of it, and we'd appreciate your business.
And the challenge for that, Jonathan, is these doors open, and I hear what Dave is saying. The challenge then is, do we have the necessary mechanisms in place to supply all of the demand that he's out there creating? How does that look? I mean, easily in a few years you could be at that 2 million gallon point, and are you even close to ready for that?
Well, I tell you this, it takes a lot of planning on everybody's end at the winery, and we try to look at 5-year projections. Where we're going to be 5 years from now. It's kind of hard because I don't even know what I'm going to do after I get done here. Where we're going to go eat lunch.
Exactly.
It's just one of these things where you're constantly looking at what we're going to do, and every little thing affects something else. There's always side effects, and so we're trying to do what is the very best, and ultimately you just leave it in God's hands and let it go from there. But we do try our best to project where we're going to grow.
Very quickly, some events coming up, and you guys have branded some huge events in the area, and one of those is a Christmas event that comes up each and every year, and just a great singing group of talent on stage for that, and folks need to call that number. Give us that number again.
It's 800-774-9634, and then go to our website, duplinwinery.com. But we put on what I think is the very best Christmas show in the area. I would challenge it against the Myrtle Beach shows.
Absolutely.
Down Home Country does a fantastic Christmas event, and we have 15 shows this year, and they can find those dates out at duplinwinery.com. But we have actually sold out several of the shows already.
Wow.
And so we're very, very fortunate, and we had to have a great following that come to it, and they do an amazing show every year, and this is their 14th year that they've been playing with the winery. But J-Dub, we also do other events throughout the year. We have to be an entertainment destination in order to get folks to come to the winery and see us. And we hope that gives us a chance. So just like he was talking about knocking on doors, building relationships, we hope this gives us a chance to build relationships. But one of the events that we got coming up here in next month is a new event for us called Run for Hope. Women of Hope which is a great organization out of Wilmington that basically they support cancer victims, and not with the things that we think of going out there and trying to pay for somebody's medical bill or something like this. This looks after somebody that has really needs a ride to get that to be done,
right.
Or need somebody to look after the kids, pays for a babysitter, or maybe they just need to be able to, they can't even afford to go get a haircut because they're paying for it. This pays for that in of it. So we're putting a new event is where people can come run like you run absolutely. Every morning, or you can walk. But it's a big fundraiser. We're gonna have a Coastline Band performing, and it's just a big band, and it's just gonna be a big event to be able to raise funds for Women of Hope. And we call it Run for Hope. And we're coming out with a new wine that day called Positively Pink. That's cool. And it is a gorgeous package. I mean, it is a fantastic package.
Tastes good, too.
It does, yes.
Well, all these things are going on, and I think one of the things we want to do is make sure people are aware of it, because it's close by. I hear a lot of people talk about it a lot of times. I don't want to drive so far. It's gas and everything else. This is nearby. For all of the counties, 18 counties that listen to us or pick us up on TV, here's something close by. Guys, you can do this, just drive over. Think about the folks you talked about that we're driving in. So when you look at these events, think about it positively. And again, that number, telephone number and website.
800-774-9634 or DuplinWinery.com.
Dave, I was looking at also doing some research on this show, and I noticed a position open with the North Carolina Wine and Grape Council, a position that they can go to the state website, and it's a coordinator position for the council. If they want to do that, they need to do it fast, because I think that closes the 7th. I always like to announce job openings to folks. I mean, it's just important.
You have been doing some
that's the thing. Have we got a job? North Carolina Grape Council, according to the information, is that there is a job opening there. That would sound like for somebody out there that's looking something with a wonderful opportunity, that would be a great opportunity.
We're looking at a good person.
You better believe it, An envoy for all of the wineries in the state and what's going on in North Carolina. Want to give a shout out to all the folks down at Duplin Winery. Before I forget that too, especially Morgan Jackson. Well, I want to thank her. She's a good friend of mine. So, and you guys know that as well. Morgan and I got something going on in the background all the time. So, but we've had a lot of introductions just locally. Recently, you guys were at the Williams Lake reunion. Robert Honeycutt and all those folks that make that happen were there, and just had a great review and turnout for that. And I think a lot of folks got indoctrinated into Duplin wines and understood what was going on. And we're kind of coming up to that segment. I'm going to give you a few seconds to kind of do wrap up, but I want to quickly say that the whole idea of sweet, cool, and easy, or sweet, cool, and freezy, or the great Grape Stomp, or whatever you come up with, that it's always going to be first class, it's always going to be quality, and it's always going to be family oriented in what you guys do, because everything I've seen you do is founded in good Christian values, and of course I'm very strong in standing with you on that. Having said that, I'm going to give you a few seconds, wrap up, and Jonathan, I'll give you for a few seconds here.
Well, first of all, thank you so very much for having both Dave and I to come here to be on your TV show twice now, and we're great. We're great.
You're good sponsors.
Well, anytime you invite us, we're going to be here any way we can. But I want to tell your audience also, thank you so very much for your support and looking after all of us and helping us be able to grow and for that. But we do want to invite them to our 37th annual Grape Stomp. Please come out, have a good time with us, and we look forward to having you.
Dave, quick wrap up.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your business and support. Thank you for your support. And we're working hard, and we're humble folks, and we really do try to show everybody a good time at the winery. And my favorite thing is say, welcome to the country.
Absolutely. I want to thank you guys for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to take just a few seconds here at closing and thank everybody for your comments and suggestions on our show. We should know edu@gmail.com. Dr. Gina Atkinson, the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, we thank you for those comments. We'll be back next week. See you on the radio.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of We Should Know with host J.W. Simmons. If you have a question or comment regarding this or any episode, please send your email questions and or comments to jwsimmonsedu@gmail.com. And remember to tune in every Tuesday afternoon beginning at 2:30 for another informative episode of We Should Know.